exception of our newest member from Freeport, Anna Childs was appointed by the Freeport Town Council last evening. So given the short turnaround time, she wasn't able to join us tonight, but hopefully we will have her with us at our next meeting a couple weeks out. But in the meantime, we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes of the December 11th, 2024 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? Cheyenne, thank you. Beth, second. All those in favor? Great. None opposed? Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm just gonna abstain since I wasn't here.
Okay. We generally wouldn't.
Oh, generally we wouldn't? Okay.
No.
Then I'll vote in favor.
Okay. Usually abstentions have a specific reason for the abstention.
Yeah.
It's like, so I don't think we would typically would, but up to you. Okay.
I guess I just don't miss very often.
So, 10-0. All right, so we will move on to item 5, adjustments to the agenda, and I believe there are a few.
I have a few this evening. Under reports from the superintendent, which is number 8, under 1 retirements, I have an additional retirement to announce this evening. And number 3, support staff new hires, we're going to remove that item. Number 14, personnel, I'd like to add a couple of items. I'd like to add a letter B, which, and I'll explain more, we'll give you the motion a little bit later, but it's talking about a position we have at Pownell that's pieced together in many pieces. We want to make it whole, and we'll explain that when we get there. And also, so that'll be about a Pownell PE slash RTI intervention teacher that's also connected with an ed tech role. We'll talk about that. And then the letter C, I'm looking to have the board authorize us to hire a special ed teacher at Freeport High School for the remainder of the school year using 2 unfunded ed tech positions. And we'll talk more in depth about that. And those are all the adjustments.
Okay. All right, so good news and recognition. We will go to Moon for our student report.
Well, a lot has happened since. So the first thing, like Jill Highland's multilingual program had worked with like local Evan Haynes on the community self-portrait project, and they went all around Freeport taking pictures and just reflecting like in small journals about what like Freeport means to them and its significance. And like they kind of displayed it in the meeting house, in the arts meeting house, and apparently it will be presented in like the Freeport Community Library. And then another thing was the Tufts medical students in the main medical mentors program, which are like a small group of students who like organize like about 1.5 hours of group mentor sessions with high schools like all throughout Maine. And they like these 45 minutes, like they usually host 5-minute sessions, which like include learning activities, like presentations, softly like outlining many career paths in the medical field, and like additional time dedicated to just answering questions. And then also like students help the Freeport Rotary unload Christmas trees in support of a fundraiser. And then also students and staff participated in the annual Giving Tree, which was like giving just gifts to people. And then also 30 students attended the BIW Industries Day at the BIW Training Academy in Brunswick, and that was cool. They had the opportunity to meet professionals and just learn about like all different types of fields, and like they learned about cybersecurity, design, engineering, IT, and like various trades like electricians, HVAC, crane operators, crane riggers, and more. And then this week, or like recently, the FHS choir, directed by like Dana Reynolds, like put on an annual winter concert, and they received a gift of $2,500. So that was really nice. And then also Region 10 came to our school actually today to like to present just like their new classes that they came up with and just like how Region 10 would benefit everyone. So that was a great opportunity. And then also students like in February have like 2 courses that they can take via Zoom about Python, just basic things. And then also students, the Freeport Nordic team seems to be doing great as their top skiers. Actually today, in the last I think couple hours, the top skiers Owen Dawson and Lucy Huggett both placed first in their races. And then also another great thing was in the indoor track team. A lot of new records were set. In the girls 4x4 team, this was like their second year winning, and they set a record. It was like Emma, Lucy, and Lila, and Lizelyn. And then the girls sprint medley, which is like the 200, and then another 200, then a 400, then an 800. That was set by Ada, Ruby, Mia, and Ella. And then Tyler Burns set one in the triple jump. And then Ella C set one in the mile, and Brady Weber set one in the high jump. Yeah, a lot of great things have happened.
Wow. Okay. That is a lot of great information. Thank you for that. Never mind hot off the presses from the mountain, like literally just happening. So thank you for that. Great update on all the wonderful things that are happening. I thought you were going to say we've been off for 2 weeks. We have nothing to share, but thank you for all of that. All right. So we will move on to public comment. I believe we do have some folks in attendance tonight. So just a quick reminder, we ask that you come to the microphone, tell us your name, where you live. Comments are restricted to 3 minutes, and yeah.
Good evening, Chairwoman Richardson, RSU5 board members, and Superintendent Scarapra. Sorry if I don't pronounce those correctly. My name is Alan Sarvinas, and I'm the State Director and Organizer for Parents' Rights in Education here in Maine. We have worked and met with many of your families and taxpayers that fully appreciate our advocacy here in RSU5. That's why it was very disappointing to witness a school board director intentionally campaign to shut down our event that we had at Freeport Community Services. We embrace diversity of viewpoints because it's every American's fundamental right to express themselves. And for the record, a board member from FCS attended our event and was not offended at the least. Our primary objective is to make sure the inherent fundamental rights of parents are a priority for school districts. Why? Because the greatest trend across successful educations is the educational environment within the home. That means any decision by the district or employees that interferes with a home relationship is automatically reducing a student's academic outcomes. I am here today because the district curriculum social issues book club is a prime example of parents not being given the opportunity to review and opt out, let alone opt in. Our parents do not teach their kids they have power over others because of the way they dress. They are not oppressors, period. The Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment is very clear when parents must be notified and allowed to opt out. Just last October 2024, a federal court affirmed parents have the constitutional right to reasonable and realistic advance notice and the ability to opt their children out of sensitive issues. We are urging parents to submit our PPRA-based forms and urge this board to review their curriculum and all content to review for what any reasonable person would agree is debatable. Or prove the district is offering a diverse set of viewpoints about that topic, providing each with the same tone and body language. Again, I thank you for your time tonight and ask that parental rights are much more a priority going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you mind telling us where you're from?
From Topsom.
Topsom. Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Janice Flame from Freeport. I've spoken to the board before on several different occasions. My question is more about protocol for the selection of the new, the vacant Freeport seat on the board. I think that the communication and the inclusion of the community at large was limited at best. I'm a grandparent. My daughter is a parent, and I went to the town council meeting last night where the appointment was made. And I had no clue that the decision had been made. I knew that the appointments committee had met. I had no idea how the committee was formed. I had no information about that process. And for an elected position, I just think there should have been a broader net to include more parents. I know, nothing came home in a folder to say vacant school board. I mean, position, and the town council, they're following the law. They have to, that's their job, to appoint somebody, so I think they did the right thing. But I just think that when it comes to a role that is that important, there needs to be a lot more feedback from the actual community. I don't know who chose the nominating committee, so I think, I know that you want somebody in the position quickly because you don't want the board to be missing a valuable member, but with the holidays, I mean, I'm assuming the previous position was held by Carolyn Jensen, and I saw that she was absent from 2 meetings, and then I saw in the notes, because I couldn't come to those meetings, I saw in the notes that there was a vacant position, but I didn't see anything out to parents. Now, maybe I missed the newsletter because it was the holidays. I understand that as well, but I just think that for a process and a protocol to replace somebody that is elected by the community at large, there should be a lot more communication with the community at large and allow the community to have feedback and not rush to appoint someone. And so I'll send a letter to Jean and CC everyone else, and I would just like some feedback on what that process is, and I apologize if I missed all of the little details with the holidays, and there's a newborn in the house, so that might be my oversight. But I said to the town council last night, this is way too quick. It's been 2 months, and I can't imagine that the community can decide in 2 months how to replace a vacant position, and I just think that it should be looked at. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Sorry if I'm looking at you because you're the only other person in the audience. You're good? Okay. All right, we do have another public comment at the end of our agenda this evening. So if anyone is interested in that, that will come after all of our board business. But thank you for those who got up and spoke this evening. We will move on to item number 8, which is the report from the superintendent.
Okay, this evening, we have some retirements to announce this evening. Kelly Fitz-Randolph, Freeport Middle School science teacher. Adele Hassett, DCS grade 6 teacher. And Kim Kalnin, FHS guidance office secretary. And I have one more retirement this evening to announce, and regretfully, I'm happy for the individual, but not for the district. Regretfully, Cynthia Alexander will be retiring from her position as assistant superintendent in June, and I, will have lots of time to certainly thank Cynthia, but I certainly want to thank her for she's on her year 9 here and RSU 5, and all the years she's served in many capacities in other districts as a teacher, as a principal, and all she's given to touch so many, many lives over her career. Certainly sad for us, but really excited for Cynthia and what might come next in her life. And there will be, for the board, there will be a process where certainly we're going to look for a new assistant superintendent, and we'll be getting information out and how people can participate later on in this month.
And before you ask, I did say no when they can we accept the resignation. My answer was no, but apparently she's demanding it.
Something in the trash.
I said better luck next year, but that didn't work.
Maybe. And some resignation. Marie Ballou, FMS nutrition assistant. Karina Marinut, FHS Ed Tech. And Kimberly Stewart, community programs office coordinator. And that's all we have this evening under my report.
All right, so we will move on to item number 9, which is administrator reports. First up is FHS Principal Jen Goko for the 25-26 Freeport High School Program of Studies. I can't believe we're already here at this meeting in the year. Didn't we just do this? God, time flies.
Feels like it's going fast. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jen Gulko, the principal of Freeport High School. And just wanted to share a little bit about the process for people who are new members of the board. This document, the Program of Studies, is one that we have available to all community members at all times through the websites. Most all high schools do that in order to give a brief discussion and description of all different parts of our school's academic program. So things like grading policies, but also gives the descriptions of the courses that we offer each year. So the document that you have in front of you, it is a lengthy document, 80-something pages, which is the description of everything. And what I walk through tonight is just some of the major changes. The letter that you have shows all of the changes. Any change we make to the document whatsoever, it shows the page number and where we've made the document. So it might be something simple, such as we hired a new social worker this year, so we would update her name. All that I'm going through tonight is some of the ones that I want to give some context behind the change that was made and the decision behind that change. So I won't go through every item that's on the letter. Just a selection of those. I will start with, and I'll give you the page number for each thing that I'm discussing that has been a change. The first one that I would say is important to note, and this was shared with all students, all staff, and also with parents today, actually, is that we've updated the honor roll information because it was actually in part this presentation last year that some people, which I really appreciated on the board, were meticulously looking through the documents and seeing that there was inconsistency in the number. Some documents said that it was an 83 as the criteria to reach honor roll, and some documents said 85. And so we want to just clarify, 83 is the number that's the beginning threshold when we are looking at a rubric where you would, in the younger grades, equate that to a 3. That range starts at 83. Honor roll, as well as honors at graduation, starts at 85. So 85 in all classes and above would be honor roll, 93 and higher would be high honor roll. So that is consistent. The two other numbers that were not inconsistent, or other places where we use this number, is that open campus requirement is an 85 average for all of their courses. And then when we start with giving honors at graduation, cum laude starts at 85, 84.5 actually. So that was just to clarify. I actually think walking around, the students thought it was 85. So they're the customers that matter the most. And so they already thought it was 85. We just wanted to make sure all of the documents are now matching. So that's the parent grading handbook, information that goes to 8th graders, all of that clarifies that it's an 85. If we go down to page 33, you'll see that there's a description for reading foundations and writing foundations courses. Those are the courses that we offer for our multilingual students. And we have been offering those. They were embedded into some of the other descriptions of a course like ELA 9 or ELA 10. And we've separated those because they are separate classes for students whose access scores have identified that they need to be in that course. We have, unfortunately, removed the class of entrepreneurship. This was a class that I was excited about. We've had very low enrollment, and so we have decided to replace that with a business finance class that goes hand in hand with our personal finance class. So students are able to take one or the other, or they could take both. We're one of the few schools that requires 4 years of math. We work very hard to uphold that. Feeling confident about kids' math skills and building those. And students can use those 2 electives. They can use a maximum of 2 electives to count as a 4th year of math. So students will be able to use business finance as that. We have although we're not offering entrepreneurship, we are very proud that we have some students who are entrepreneurs in school. Landscaping is a very popular business. That if you're looking for someone over the summer, look no further. And so we feel like this will be an attractive class for them. We looked at all of the program of studies of all of the schools in Southern Maine to see what they were offering for math course electives and felt like this was the best fit for our students. We are also excited that we are just adding something, seems like a minor revision, but it is pretty major for kids, is that for computer programming, that is a course that students can take. We're calling it multi-level, so they can take that multiple times. For those of you who are familiar with coding, you just keep on coding. And so students are going to be excited to be able to take that multiple times. Their transcripts will indicate that. We do that with a few other courses like band or some of the engineering courses. On page 43 and 44, in collaboration with the science department, we have made the decision that we are going to run AP Biology and AP Physics in person every other year. And the reason for that is, although those are some, especially AP Biology, are some of our very high scores for AP courses, our numbers in those classes are consistently low. So in 23-24 school year, we had 7 students in AP Biology. This year we have 9 students. In 23-24, we had 8 students in AP Physics, and this year we have 11 students. That's opposed to AP Calculus this year has 21, AP Environmental has 25, AP Literature has 45. AP Lang is even higher than that. And so we feel like these courses are at times competing for the same kids. And so they will still be able to, in their 4-year planner, take both of them in person if they would like to, or they could take one of them online and one of them in person. And so our plan right now is to offer AP Physics in person next year, AP Biology the following year in person, and alternate as such. On page 45, this was actually a late addition to the program of studies last year. I shared this with the board that we were really excited to offer 2 new electives in science that are currently running. One is called the Gulf of Maine Field Studies course. This is our only dual enrollment course with University of New England, and they only partner with 2 schools, and we're one of them. So we're really proud of this program. It's been fantastic. I had the chance to go out into the mudflats out at Wolf Neck with them and I learned a lot about invasive green crabs. So that course is actually already running, but now it's officially into the program of studies. Then the other course this year is called Coastal Field Studies, and we're changing that title description slightly to Maine Field Studies. It is quite confusing at this moment that we have Gulf of Maine Field Studies and Maine Field Studies. We might need to alter the name slightly because that's a big part of student selection process, but that would go beyond coastal studies. It would be field ecology and biology. So that will be offered next year as well. And then if we shift to social studies on page 49 and 50, the social studies department did a phenomenal job of soliciting input from students on what they would like to see for electives. Some of our electives, in my 10 years here, we've seen a turnover in electives in social studies, and often it's based on enrollment and it's based on the students' preferences of what they want to take. And so we've seen some courses that have had lower enrollment than others, and have made the decisions based on student input as well as teacher input to remove the sociology class, and we've replaced that with the history of the Dark Ages. And then we're really excited about this course is to add AP Human Geography. And so this is a really unique AP course. It's open to grades 9 through 12. There are some schools around us that offer. I had the chance the other night with my own 8th grader to visit Deering High School. And Deering High School actually has all of their 9th graders take this course. And I was able to see some of the student work, which the basic premise of the class is how people impact places and how places impact people, and studying that connection across the world. And so we're really excited about it. It will be the only class that's AP that's open to ninth graders, and it's the only AP class that's only a semester. That's the way the College Board runs it. I don't actually know if we're going to be able to offer it both semesters or if we offer it just in the spring so that they take the test in the spring. We do have some concerns, and we want to talk to some other schools around us. Falmouth also offers this course, because taking it in the fall and then not having the test until the spring would be challenging for some students. And then we get to our music courses, page 53 and 54. Our goal is always in the music courses to run a wide variety so that we are appealing to different students, not just students who maybe have studied an instrument their whole life, or they've been in chorus their whole life. That's where we have classes like music technology, where they are using GarageBand to design music. And so the courses that we are really excited to offer are going to be cover band. If you've ever heard our cover band play, they're fantastic. And they are constantly recruiting students for that. And then also a voice class. So students who are in the voice class can also be in choir or honors chamber choir, but they don't have to be, because we have some students who want to work on voice classes and don't want to perform. And that is a requirement of being in honors chamber choir or in the choirs that you have to perform. We are also adding honors chamber choir back into the program of studies, which is an audition course. That was, we're very excited to see the numbers growing at the middle school, which then of course impacts our numbers here in chorus. And then finally, other than slight revisions that you see, revisions to our clubs and our activities, we are still waiting for Region 10 to finalize all of their descriptions. I meet frequently with their administrators at Region 10, and they look at enrollment and what they're offering and their staffing. And then as soon as that is finalized, because this is the document that you have is a PDF version of this, but this is a Google Doc that is something that we're able to edit right away. So I can let the board know when their revisions are complete and finalized. And that is about it. We are bringing in the class of 2029, if you didn't know that. Our parent meeting for 8th graders is coming up at the end of January. We have some new exciting elements, adding more of our students into that process. And so we're really excited to welcome those new students that night. And they get a shortened version. They have access to the full version of this, but they get a shortened version. So they see where they're able to select courses. I can take any questions.
Questions for Jen? Danielle.
Thank you, Jen, for that. So I'm upset about the biology thing because I think that's important. So I guess I'm wondering, because I think the teacher right now has such a good record with the kids doing so well on the AP exam. If we see some changes with now it being offered online, would we consider bringing that back as a class?
So absolutely, but also it's going to be offered in person every other year. And so at the beginning of February, we have a curriculum fair every year. And the students have the chance, it's in the gym, looks like a job fair. All of the teachers and departments are in the gym, and students take turns going down and speaking to the teachers at each table. And then when they're waiting, they're in the gym, in the bleachers, working on their 4-year planner. So if students look at their 4-year planner, they'll be able to figure out how to take both AP Physics and AP Biology. And if some of our students love online courses, we're seeing so much of the college world shifting that way that they're able to do that here and do it for free with us, whereas other students prefer in person. So they'll be able to organize their 4-year planner to decide that. And so if students want to take it in person, then they would take it. We would just have the challenge of next year's seniors. Other than next year's seniors, our other students will be able to look and see which year they want to take those if they're adamant about taking them in person.
Is bio usually taken as a junior and physics as a senior, or doesn't matter?
Typically, they're both taken as seniors. That's where we compete.
Okay.
You can take it as a junior. The typical progression, all of our 9th graders are required to take Earth System Science as a 9th grader. Then they take biology or honors biology as a sophomore. The next year is either chemistry or physics. the next year often tends to be AP Biology or AP Physics or AP Environmental. So we're competing for the same pool of students. There are some students who take it as a junior, as AP Biology, especially students who know that they want to be in the medical field, but that's not the typical progression.
So there would be kids who would have to take, in this process, you wouldn't pick, because right now if they're both generally senior ones, seniors that are taking it, they're picking physics or bio, or
Right
they're
now.
taking them both together.
Mm-hmm.
But now they would basically have to double up and take AP Bio and Chem.
AP Bio and Chem. It depends on what their progression looks like. So
Or
if
AP
we
Physics
take
and
our
Chem.
if we take our current 10th graders right now, so our students who are in honors biology, those students from biology can go to AP. You don't have to be in honors bio. It's students who are driven and are interested in the content. So if they're a sophomore right now, next year, we do not have a prerequisite requirement for AP Physics. They can go straight to AP Physics. For the biology course, you have to go biology, then AP Biology, because the amount of content is so thick. Whereas some of the concepts for AP Physics, they have in Earth System Science. So our current 10th graders this year could be in honors bio this year, then take AP Physics in person the following year, AP Biology the following year.
And never chemistry. Chemistry's not a requirement.
No, it's chemistry or physics.
Okay,
You choose
just
one
take
of the
one.
two. Yep. Or chemistry in the community. That's our third option.
Okay.
So some students take them all. If they're a lover of science, you'll see they'll have all that plus engineering, plus forensics, which is one of the coolest classes. They love that class. And so it depends on what their overall course load looks like.
Sorry, Danielle. I don't know if I jumped in front of your question.
But you brought up, I forgot. So my kid doubled up as a junior and then doubled up again for science this year. So that's how she made it work last year.
Yep.
Okay. I get it. I don't know.
I have a question. So I was wondering if like students like want to take a class that requires like a prerequisite, like is there like exceptions that they will like allow for students to take that class if they're driven?
It depends on the course, because sometimes it's about whether you're driven for that course or it's about that content knowledge that you have to have because you go into that course and that teacher assumes that you've already learned all of those things. So you might see some people say, as a former Spanish teacher, somebody who had some knowledge of Spanish, took Spanish 1, they, depending on how they performed, could skip Spanish 2 and jump into Spanish 3. But the understanding is that they know all of the content of what would have been covered in Spanish 2. And so that's a little bit trickier, whereas some of the other prerequisites might just be about somebody who's really motivated and has done some learning on their own.
So a student would approach the teacher for a question about an exception, or what would that process look like?
So our process involves, now it's very digital. So there's some courses where you have to have approval no matter what. Even if you meet the prerequisite, you still have to have a teacher approval to get into that course. And so they would speak with their guidance counselor and or the teacher directly to get into that.
I was just happy to see the addition of another AP that is available to all grade levels, because I feel like that's something that I've wished was here, that there was an AP that, 9th and 10th graders could access as well. Or I don't know, do 10th graders take APs here or not?
They can, some of them, it depends, because they wouldn't take the social studies AP courses unless they doubled up, because we have required courses in social studies. But we have had plenty of our highest achieving math students have gone to AP Calculus as a sophomore. That's rare, but it happens.
That's right. Okay. So thank you, though. I'm excited that you added that in.
Great. We are too.
Yeah, because I think that's something, and I don't know, I'm not a college admissions person, thankfully, but, when our students are up against students from other schools that start taking AP as freshmen, and they have a heck of a lot more AP on their transcript because it was available to them, it probably says in our profile, but so someone would be able to know that it's not that our kids are slackers and not taking AP when it was available to them. It's that we don't make it available to them primarily until they're juniors and seniors.
Yes. And so that's where at the beginning of this document, that school profile is so important. That goes out to every college with every application, so that college is what they're looking at, because every school has their own grading policy. Every school has their own way of calculating GPA, whether it's weighted or unweighted. And so college admissions representatives have been really clear with us that they are looking to see if a student took the most challenging course load possible at that school. So if we don't offer it, it's not apples to apples. But if a student has straight A's, but they haven't taken some of our more challenging courses, a college considers that.
And you asked the question, so I'm going to ask, or you mentioned it, so I'm going to ask the question about the grading scale and a failing grade being what historically at most places is a D. And I think that was something you guys were looking at last year, this year. I don't know, time seems to blend together. Could you give us an update on that?
Absolutely. It was something that we were looking at as we're looking at equitable practices across instruction and assessment, and it is not something that we have tackled. Really what we've been focused on, we've done a lot of work this year on making sure that our whole school has an understanding of what we mean by instruction with a lens of equity. We've worked with Great Schools Partnerships. We've done work as a full faculty in departments to make connections between what we're doing with our curriculum and how that is tied to equity work. And so the numeric grading scale is a tough and complicated process, and so different across schools. Around here, it's more common that the lowest grade, passing grade, is a 70. Whereas I've shared with the board that I come from Massachusetts and New York and California, where it tends to be a 60. And so it's something that our leadership team thought a lot about and felt like there were other places of our equity work where we wanted to focus first. That, and also talking about identifying bias and microaggressions. Those are two things that we have decided to prioritize before we get to the grading scale.
Anything else for Yep, Kara.
Can you explain, or do you think that there will be an interest now that you've opened up computer programming? Do you think that there might be an AP option for that course at some point? And hearing that, Moon was sharing about the Python courses that or workshops. I don't know if there were workshops or courses or.
They're like 9-week courses.
Okay. So I'm glad to see that there are more options there, but I guess my question is, do you think that might be an option for computer programming to become an AP course, or how do you decide what courses become, or what you offer for AP courses?
So no, that's a great question. AP computer programming has been offered for years, but always online, which is ironic. It's a class that kids love to take online. And so our kids have, it's been a very small population of students who have taken it, and they tend to do very well. We've had a lot of 5s in that class, which is wonderful. So we really base it on student interest. We base it on the number of teachers that we have here. Right now, the interest in AP computer programming has been too small to consider offering, because we'd have to take away another class because there's only so many teachers and courses that we have. And so right now, we're not considering it beyond being an online course. It's worked for kids. There's an entire selection of courses through, it used to be AP for All, and now it's called AP for Me. And so we have a huge range of what kids... Yeah, totally different, very different, as we focus on changing names of things. And so that is something that we're very fortunate that we can access. So for example, we don't offer AP languages here, but anyone could take that online if they wanted to.
Is that in here somewhere and I didn't see it, or do you think that I feel like that would be good information to have?
Yes, there's so much information that's in here. I only did what we've changed because we've offered that program for years, and we have that as part of our curriculum fair. So we advertise it. You know how much our students love to read their email, so we put it in email, but we also do it in person to say these are the courses that we have to offer for APs. Most students actually tend to choose a free college online course instead, because they are guaranteed those credits. You're not guaranteed AP credits. It looks very good on a transcript. You know that it's going to be a challenging and great learning experience. But for some students, that credit opportunity is more important. And so they might choose to take an SMCC course over an AP course at times because they know they're going to get those credits. But we just keep advertising. We just keep telling them to read their email. I had 2 students yesterday tell me they didn't need to go to an assembly because they read all their emails. I was like, I wish I believed you. You're still going to the assembly. It was about scholarships, so they really needed to go. But all of these opportunities that are in the program of studies, we really try to make sure that we have multiple ways that students know, hey, this is an opportunity. As Moon explained, it might be an outside opportunity like these courses that just came up, and then we try to blast that out to students.
Any other questions or comments for Jen? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. 9B, update on the 24-25 district goals.
And in your packet, there's a cream-colored piece of paper in there that gives our report out. As you know, the board has one very, very large goal this year, which is to engage stakeholders in the communities of RSU 5 in a comprehensive and inclusive process to collaboratively develop a 5-year strategic plan. And I'd like to update where we are in this process. First of all, starting in September, we solicited and solidified an inclusive membership in our strategic planning process advisory committee. I call that group is really the worker bees for some of this work. We have the membership we have a parent/community member from Durham, Freeport, and Pownell. We have a student. We have 2 teachers. We have 2 board members, 2 building administrators, the director of instructional support, the assistant superintendent, and the superintendent are the worker bees on that committee. And then we have a list, and it's been public, and I've shared the members that are selected. And I will just say Izzy George is our student. We're thrilled she's joined us. And then Karen Kelly, our board members here on that committee. We sent out early on in September, we solicited requests for qualifications for potential consultants, and the committee collaboratively selected a candidate. So all of those requests came in by October 4th is when they were due in our office. And we had a couple of committee meetings on the 10th and of October is when our committee first met to organize ourselves and look at the proposal. And we interviewed potential candidates on the 17th of October and then again on November 7th. There were 3 consulting group submissions, and we interviewed 2 of the 3. And we have selected Great Schools Partnership to work with. Going forward, after that, we had Cynthia and I on November 21st had a meeting with members of Great School Partnership to really start talking about what the scope of the project would be. And then again, last week, we met with our actual 2 facilitators that will be working closely with us to develop the plan further. There are 2 upcoming meetings of the committee, which January 30th and February 27th, where we're really going to tease out the work, and we'll be making all that information available to you all and to the public. There will be lots and lots and lots and lots of opportunities for public participation. That will include, for example, there will be some survey work, but we will also be on site working with focus groups. We're planning a day in March to work with the staff. We're going to have some opportunities for student input. So stay tuned as we tease that all out. And then as we get through there, we're looking at really identifying themes, looking at our mission and vision statement, and developing some measurable goals. And another exciting part we're going to do is really looking at a portrait of a graduate and a portrait of an 8th grader and a 4th grader. So we'll be doing that work as well. So we're very excited to start rolling up our sleeves for this. meeting with the facilitators and the committee work we've done, we realized that we don't want to push this process too quickly. So we've asked to work with Great School Partnership for a 2-year period to really make sure that we've had time to really thoughtfully get our input from our constituents. And also a next step for us is they're going to request a lot of data from the district, so we're going to provide that so that we can make some thoughtful decisions about that moving forward. And the board will certainly have an opportunity to look at the you'll have some updates all the way along the line, and it won't be till the 25-26 end of that year where there will actually be a plan for us to adopt. But very excited to work on that, and I think this first part, like, we're really just ready to go, and that's what Cynthia and I shared last week when we met with our 2 people. Like, we're just ready to roll up our sleeves and get moving, and it's going to be a really exciting process. And I'll certainly entertain any questions on that. This is sort of a lot of the beginning work so that we can get in and do the hard work.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share that when we did our leadership meeting with the towns back in December, this was one of the topics we had talked about with representatives from the different towns in the district around how to make sure to our public comment earlier, making sure that we're getting information out to the communities, not just parents, but all of the community, about opportunities for feedback, and whether it's a survey or whether it's a focus group, or trying to make sure that we're casting a really broad net to get as much input from our community members as we can. And everyone in attendance was very supportive of, let us know. We'll include it in our emails that go out to everybody. We'll put it on our websites. We'll put it on our cable channels where it's appropriate. So, we've started to lay that groundwork to try and be as communicative as we can, so that, this is definitely a project where the more voices we have brought into the conversation, the better the end product is going to be. So not a question, but just wanted to share that we did sort of start that process with the communities.
And one other, I'll piggyback on something Michelle said as well, is we're really interested in looking at what are those marginalized communities that we might not hear from all the time. So we want to make sure that we're tapping into all the folks in Pownell, Durham, and Freeport. What are those groups of folks that we need to talk to, or make sure that they have an opportunity to provide, sort of as we're looking at our roadmap for the next several years.
Questions for Jean on that? All right, so we will move on to the district scorecard. Cynthia. We're not talking to you right now, Cynthia.
Happy New Year.
It's a happier new year for some rather than others.
Okay, this will take just a second. I'm going to, if you want to reposition yourselves, I'm going to try to get this up on the screen. She was waiting for me to look over. Like, I got the first part. I got this part. Okay, so. Okay, let's see. 8. Cross our fingers. Oh, you mean the projector just shut off.
Why? No, it's on.
Oh.
That is weird.
Should we try it again? Oh, there it is. Fabulous. Okay. So, who just left? Was it Jean and Michelle? Okay, I'll just give them a second if that's okay with you. They probably figured they had time.
Yeah. You should probably start soon.
Yeah. And now for the last slide. That's what I'll say when I come in. Oh. Oh, let's see. Pam, how do I get the? Maybe I can just move it Oh, never mind. Took care of it all by myself. So while you're waiting, not in your purple folders, you probably already have this out. There's 9C. That was in your packets before. And then Ginny should have put in a few of the slides that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. Not all of the slides are in there because it would be a duplication of some of the scorecard, if you remember from last year. Okay, is everybody back? Fabulous. Okay. So good evening. And I just shared with you the documents that you need are in your purple folders. This will be my last scorecard presentation. All right, so this slide right here is you have the slide. So you have the first, I think, 7 slides in the handout. I thought you would like to look at this later, even though I'm going to go over it. It's an overview of the assessment data you'll see in this presentation. It reflects our achievement data based on either local, state, or the national standards. So to review, all students in grades K through 5 are given the district-wide benchmark assessment. This information is factored into the reading grade. Beginning in FY23, all students were assessed in reading and math using the state main through-year assessment. If you remember that. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle, I thought you were in here.
No, it's fine.
Using the state main through-year assessment in grades 3 through 8 and 10. If you remember before, it was a totally different assessment before. This is required by the state to satisfy our federal reporting requirements, and so that happened in 23. Each spring, all students in grades 5, 8, and 11 are assessed in science as required by the state. And the PSAT and the SAT assessments are offered at FHS, but they are no longer required. That was not long after COVID, they stopped requiring that. And I'll give you a little bit more information on how many are taking it later on in the presentation. So for this slide, you can turn to page 3 and 4 in the district scorecard because they're kind of like go hand in hand. There's more information in the scorecard than on this slide. So I'll go over the slide first, and then I'll talk a little bit about a couple of the things in the pages. So this slide shows academic achievement in reading for cohorts of students who are reading on grade level, and it factors in the benchmark assessment that is administered in the spring, as well as other literacy information. If you remember from the board presentation in Pownell in October, Moon's shaking his head. So if you remember that Julie Nickerson, Principal Nickerson, and Susan D., our instructional strategist, gave a much more in-depth presentation around our literacy. And so those things that were mentioned in that data wall are also factored in to this data information, which is different than I presented before, because we review this as an administrative team and made this decision to. This is really what is getting reported out on report cards at the end of each school year. So here you see in this graph the spring of 22, 23, and 24 for students in grades 2 through 5. So I'm going to take you through a cohort like I did before, so bear with me. So locate grade 3, so that runs along the bottom. You'll see that those 3 bars together for grade 3. And in 2022, that would be that first bar. 44.8% of the students met the expected reading level for grade 3. And if you follow that same cohort in 2023, when they were in grade 4, you'll see that 47% of the students met. And then last spring, that same group that was in grade 5, 59.7% of them met. So they're also, more are meeting, but they're also a full grade level of content as well. So you have to think about it in both ways. And so these are now, those students that I just shared that cohort are now grade 6 students. You may notice that grade 2 students across the 3 years, so if you just go back to the graph and look at the grade 2, you can see the progression of over those 3 years. So they're different students, but they were all in second grade. And we feel very strongly about our changes in our reading and writing curriculum updates, and we're seeing very good changes, and we expect to see this, continue on through. And I think Julie even reported something about kindergarten. She's already looking at their data, and I think there are only like 2 students in her kindergarten that are not on track. So right now, so this is really good information. So because we're only talking about the elementary level on this slide, I also wanted to share with you that 2 of our elementary schools, Mass Landing and Pownell, are on Tier 1 status. And so Tier 1 status just means that, there's reasons, right, that you would be on it. And remember, we talked a lot about absenteeism last year, the year before. We have every single principal now has the chronic absenteeism as a goal, and they have strategies in place that you've heard all through the fall. That is why these schools are primarily on that status. So what they were required to do when I did the grant, when I worked through the comprehensive needs assessment that we have to do here, and it's pages and pages and pages. They were part of that process, and they have to set goals, and that's part of the process. And that's all that we're required to do at this time, is just have our goals set and make progress in this. So I just wanted to inform you, because it's not something that fits in anywhere, and it just seemed to fit here because we're talking about the elementary school. So just a reminder that chronic absenteeism means that a student has 10% absenteeism. So in a full school year, if we have 175 days, they would have missed 17.5 days. So why is that not? Start over. Okay. Let's see. Could not connect to FH to the flight. Okay. Okay, it should work now. I just have to wait for the number. There we go. Oh, it's the same number. 8, 2, 3, 5. Okay.
Geez, some of those AP computer.
I'm not doing too bad, but it's nice to have a crutch to lean on right here. Okay. All right, I think I finished that. Okay. Except now it won't advance. Maybe if I just do this. Okay, very good. Oh, no, that went backwards. Whoops, sorry. Okay, there we go. So now the next slide that you're going to see. Oh, what I did also want to mention to you, I forgot to do this. When I said to look at those 2 pages, if you'll notice as the cohorts go across grade K, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, you can see progression in the last couple of years. So that's, until you get to like 4th, but we will get there with them as well. So the next slide is the main through year assessment. So that would be in your scorecard. Are you all on that page for the reading? Okay. So I'd like to note that the data we just looked at is not really comparison worthy to this. They're totally separate. They have different reasons for doing them. The next 2 slides are reflective of the main through year, which is an adaptive test. Pages 5 through 7 in your scorecard if you wanted to look on there. As I stated earlier, in an earlier slide, the main through year is used to fulfill our federal requirements. It is given in 3 through 8 and the second year of high school, and it measures achievement according to benchmark grade level state standards. So this chart reflects the results of the 2 years that we have had the new main through year and the state results from last spring. So in the gray, if you look at this, the gray is the state standards, and then the darker red is from 2023, and then the more orangey color is from, depending on what your printer looks like there in front of you, the more orangey color looks is 2024. So when compared to the state percentages depicted in the gray on this chart, we have outperformed the state at every grade level. All scores are, in all scores, that state scores includes all scores across the whole state. So that's a celebration. And you can see the spring results show a range of, from 24, a range of 72.4% to 81.6% of students meeting the state standards by grade level. That's really strong. I also want to call your attention to the subgroup in the district scorecard. So if you're looking at the scorecard, and you see that subgroup, it's, I think, identified.
What page is it?
So if you're on
Says page
pages
5.
5 through 7 in the scorecard, for some reason I don't have my scorecard up here with me. That subgroup, that, in other words, the group that's right underneath, I don't know exactly what the terminology is. It's identified disability. Thank you. I just didn't want to missay that. We only have that one under the district total. If you see any, we no longer are using the economically disadvantaged numbers because we don't have a good measure of that anymore. So there's only the one. Last year we had both. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, on the next slide is the math. And then, so here are the results of the main through year in math. These first 2 years of data provide us the baseline. Of concern is the drop in the cohort from grade 6 to 7. So if you look at where it said grade 6 on the graph, it was from 75% in 23. Then if you go over to grade 7, it would then be the orange one with the same group of kids, went down to 58.6%. So we're watching that grade level who are now 8th grade students very closely. A significant other noticing is that now that we have state comparison data, you can easily see that we outperform the state by even more significant percentages than we outperformed the reading, which isn't like, I mean, it's weird because the numbers are not great, but they're not great anywhere, right? Like if you compare it to the reading, so it's, we do need to focus on that, and which we will be looking at next year. However, we are clearly, if you just compare the last two bars, outperforming the state. And then the next slide is our science, New Meridian. And that will be on page 8 in your scorecard. So the spring of 22 was the first administration of the New Meridian Science Assessment, which assesses the next generation science standards. It's also important to note that this slide does not show cohorts of students because it's not 2 years in a row. It's in grades 5, 8, and 11. So here you see the last two administrations of the New Meridian Assessment, and the gray bars represent the state as a whole. So I was able to put both years in because I didn't have to squeeze in a lot. I put in, if you look at grade 5, it has 23s, both, and then compared to the state, and then 24 compared to the state. So 5th grade, you can see, is not, was not stellar, but still higher than the state on every single assessment. And then 8th grade looks pretty good, and then high school is, but if you remember, we're doing the curriculum work that we're doing right now is in science, and we're really focused on 3 through 6 and the high school right now, and they're doing some really great work. So we should be seeing this year, I would think we would start seeing where they're doing their phenomena units of study. It'll take a couple years, right? Because you have to get it in 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade because they're, they have to get used to that type of learning and those units. And I actually have observed, I was recently in Pownell and saw an amazing unit of study with water, and it was phenomenal. So, and all those cross-cutting standards you could really see in the, okay, you could really see in the, in the work that they were doing. Let's see. And I kind of went off my, all right, that's what I said. All right, and then, I didn't include this in the packet, but I will give this to you after the presentation so that you can have some fun. I brought with me 5th grade released items so that you can take these tests. It's just a couple of problems. Not now. Yes, exactly. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Not for today's work, but you can go home and see it. And I gave you the student version. I actually did it myself, so I'm not making you do it. Yeah. Well, there's scores, right?
That's not passing.
There's a like you get a different amount of points, right? Like for it depends on how you answer. But I can next time we have a meeting, I'll bring you the results, and then you can just do it. If I gave you the one with the results on it, it would be like
Colin would cheat. Just gotta put your name on it.
I'm gonna cheat off of Moon.
Bring it back with you, and we'll talk it over. No, okay. Let's see. All right, next slide is SAT, grade 11. PSAT is in there, but I didn't choose to put that in the slide presentation, but that data is in your handout. But on page 10 is the SAT. So the last year that the assessment was required was 2019. And if you remember right, and we talked about like some colleges don't always use this anymore, and it kind of goes back and forth with my conversations with Jen. So in 2021, all 128 students took the SAT. In 22, 87.5% of our students took the SAT. 93% in 23, and this last spring was 83.6%. I just thought it was an interesting data point, right? Because we do offer it here. So in 2024, 71.1% of the students in grade 11 who took the SAT met or exceeded the benchmark in English reading and writing, as compared to the state, which had 71%. And the national average was, anyone gonna guess? 53%. National, that's compared nationally. So there's a lot to be proud of here. So that was this last year. In 23, it was 74.5%, so we had 3% more this year that met the standards, and the, let's see, I don't have this state average in there for some reason, but the national average that year was 52. So now we'll go to math. So in math, 35.6% of the 11th grade students who took the SAT met or exceeded the benchmarks, compared to the state average of 35, so we're slightly above them there on the SAT, and the national average of 27. Again, marginally, but higher. And 23, the same trend. We were 8.6% at 38.6, 8.6% higher than the national average. So back then, that national average was 30. And the state was 38. So each time we've been higher than the state and the national average.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, I'll try to ask it loud because I'm not on mic. Our math assessments, we seem to be killing the state average.
Yes.
Right? But then our math SATs are just eking above the state average.
It's
So-
national, yeah. And how are they different?
Right. Like
Because
why,
it's the NW, because,
Well, no, I know, but you would think that the difference, I mean, the percentage might be less on the SAT than on the through-year assessment, but you'd think the gap between us and the rest of the state
Yeah.
is taking that same test. Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do, they're just such a different kind of assessment. I don't really, I could dig into that, but yeah, it's a different, so it's the adaptive test is different than the,
Right. Than the SAT,
SAT.
which is
It's-
not adaptive. And then I think I ask you this question every year, and I don't remember if you give me an
oh
answer.
gosh,
or
I
not.
hope I answer the same way.
My question is there a specific score that they're looking for to say that they meet the standard?
Yes, on SAT?
Yes.
I do know that actually.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, because I did some other research, I think it's 500. I can pull it up tonight before I
On
leave.
each, so 500 for English.
It
and
might be a
500
little
for
different,
math.
but well, I have the math. I can get you the ELA too. But the math was 500 because we were looking at how many like I have a chart of all of them because I was doing some other research, and I have a chart of how many took it and how many met and how many exceeded, right? Because they do have a breakdown. I just got that like a couple months ago. I didn't think to add it in here, sorry. But I can get that for you.
That'd be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then I'd have to research the English and reading one, but it won't take too long to find that. Okay, then we go to advanced coursework, which is what Jen was talking about a little bit ago. I did not, this is not in your slides, but it is in the scorecard because it's exactly the same. My slide is exactly the same as what's in your scorecard, so it would have been redundant. So page 11. So this slide shows 7 years of data at the high school regarding advanced placement classes, which, we know that they provide a great opportunity and strengthen transcripts. But, I heard Jen say tonight the dual enrollment has its own, incentive too. The highlight here is that 147 of our students were enrolled in AP classes over the past 2 years, which is nice. And prior to that, we had about 133 for the 4 years prior on average. So we've kind of, increased that a little bit, like 14 or 15. And then in FY 24, 80.5% of students who took at least one exam scored a 3 or higher. And if you don't know this, it's considered a passing score is 3, 4, or 5. Some colleges only take 4s depending on what it is. It just, it's all depending on your course that you're going to take. And then in FY23, that number was 74.2%. So again, an increase. Of all the tests taken in 2024, 76.9% had a score of 3 or better. And I just said that, I'm repeating myself. So again, 3 or better is a passing. All right, the next 3 slides can be referenced on page 12. They're all on the very back page of your scorecard. So the high school graduation rate examines the percentage of public school students who graduate on time. So they start in 9th grade and they complete 4th grade. And ta-da, we were at 98.8% in 2024. And we just met at my Boost meeting yesterday, and Cheyenne was part of that yesterday. And I think I just gush over that particular group, but just the hard work that they do to really laser in and meet the needs of all the students in such a variety of ways and get them across that finish line is remarkable. So very proud. Obviously, our goal is always what? 100%. So I was hoping I would get there before I retire about it. All right, and then this is just a pictorial way. This is your cover sheet, actually, too, just to show, we're very strong on our graduation rate. Oops, I went backwards again. Apologize. Okay, so then these next 2 slides reflect data around the students enrolled in college immediately after high school. So in the class of 2023, we don't have data yet for 24. It doesn't come out till April. 72.3% of our graduating class went on to secondary education in either a 2 or 4 year program. And then the latest class that we have on their second year, so if they went their first year and then they continued on to a second year, is the ones that were in the class of 21. And this chart shows 60.3% of the class was still enrolled in a second year, or 85 out of the 141 students persisted to a second year. And this slide you do have, because I know you like this slide. I think it's the last slide I put into the packet. So this slide shows our students, where our students are planning, what are they planning to do after graduation, or what they were planning to do after graduation for the last 2 years. It's a visual with actual and some self-reported numbers. So 23s are updated. 24s, some of those were self-reported. So they're mostly accurate, but sometimes people change their minds. In 24, the pie chart on the left, you'll see 84.8% of last year's graduates enrolled in college in either a 2 or 4 year program. And in 23, 82.9% enrolled. And then the rest of the data on the pie chart shows if they're going to the military, if they're taking a job somewhere, or if they're taking a gap year. Those are the ones that are self-reported. The others were accepted to some program.
Question.
Yeah, right there, look.
So, the chart.
Yes.
For 2023 graduates shows 82.3 going to a 2 or 4 year program.
Mm-hmm.
The scorecard
Yep.
for class of 2023 is 72.3%.
Yeah.
So is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Like they plan to go, but then
Yes.
something happens and they don't end up
Yes.
going. So
We could probably update it on the other one then. Yeah, could go backward.
so
Yeah.
like the 80 whatever the percentage is for this year.
Yes.
We would expect that's probably going to be less.
Little less,
than
yeah.
That original self-reported number.
And I don't, because I do it in April, I wonder if somebody drops out first semester, right? Like I wonder if that's part of that.
It's pulled out, yeah.
Because we
I
get
have
that.
to ask all my questions now because you won't be here to answer them next time.
So that concludes my scorecard presentation. Danielle.
I have a question about the SAT stuff.
Yes.
So it seems as if most colleges are saying that next year it's going to be required again, for most of them anyways. So do we think that the state will then follow suit with that?
Yeah, I don't have that answer, but I can certainly check that out. Let me write that down. So I have 2 things. Michelle, I have the cut scores for SAT, and then Danielle, will the state require? I think, so what they did, the reason it was required to begin with, I don't know what year off the top of my head, but when we were doing, they used it to, instead of having like the 10th grade MEA, it was used instead. It was many years ago they brought it forward, and then they put a moratorium on it, maybe 2019. So I can ask that question as well.
It's probably the only really efficient thing they had done was like, hey, if the kids are going to probably be taking this test anyway, let's use it as the, because it used to be that they had to take the SATs because it was basically required everywhere, and they had to do the MEA for the high school year.
Right.
So someone had the bright idea of let's just use the SATs if they're all taking it anyway, which I think made a lot of sense, and then they sort of moved away from it.
Yeah.
It amazes me, since I've been looking at a lot of colleges lately, that if you look at the data, right, that Jen presented, and even on here, the national average of SAT is 900. A 900, it does not make any college number, right? So they're reporting that they want you to have a 1400 or a 1420. The lowest I think I saw in some of the schools was 1100. So it surprises me that the national average is 900, I guess. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think it depends on the schools you're looking at. I mean,
I get that, but I would think that average would be a little bit higher, though, right? Because
Well, it also doesn't, I mean, it also could take into account other places where the SAT is the required test for kids who may never plan on going to college, but it's the required test, so their numbers are included in the average. Yeah.
All right, I'll get you that. Oh, wait. I'm just going to hand these out so you don't forget your homework.
I have a thing.
Okay.
for you.
Yep.
Either we can take the test first, I guess.
Well, no, this is for later.
Okay.
Take home, don't do it now.
Just
No cheating. Pass one down. If you want one, you don't have
no
to
cheating,
have
Moon.
it, but I will
Don't look at my stuff. What was I going to ask?
I'm listening.
3 questions. First, have we ever looked at when we get that either the self-report or the official report on postgraduate work? Have we ever looked at whether where our Region 10 students fit into that? In other words, like it's sort of like what the overlay would be. I'm just curious, for example, whether we have any data on whether students that are in RSU 5 and also taking classes at Region 10 are
break that out.
how they fit in related to the employment or the 2 or 4 year. I'd just be curious to see whether. Because I don't know how Region 10 also tracks that.
Yeah, we
I'd be
have not
curious.
collected that data, but I think that
I'd
is
be curious
interesting
to
to
know
pull that out.
Second question was: Have we ever looked at the relationship between our math curriculum and the grades our students are receiving in those classes and the SAT scores?
Well, we're going to do a lot of data digging in the next year because math is up for
Okay. Yeah,
curriculum
because
review.
I'm just curious.
So
I was just thinking about that difference between the no, more just the English and the math. And I was just sort of curious whether it would seem just sort of like at a very basic level, and I may not be thinking about this right, but it would seem that our current English curriculum is preparing students better for the SAT than our current math curriculum is preparing students to take the math SAT.
So
And I don't know. I don't think it's probably that simple, but I'd just be
Right.
curious what the relationship between that would be.
Yeah, that's a good hypothesis. I think it's always, you always have to be a little bit careful when you're talking about a particular curriculum too, because the instruction is also key, right? So
No, I think that's why I meant the curriculum, but also
Triangulate all
then
three.
for example, I mean, again, I'm just thinking if most of our students in grade 10 are getting 3s and 4s on their
Right.
in math or
Right.
the equivalent. I'm not
And
sure
why aren't
how it's
they-
tracked in the high
Yes.
school. I have
Yeah.
a middle schooler.
It's no good.
I have a middle schooler. Okay, that's above a 60. So you need what would a 3 be? An 85,
3 is 83.
83. Okay, 83 and
Yeah.
like 83 and above. If we know, for example, all right, like the most students are getting 83 and above in 10th grade math.
Yes.
And then we see in 11th grade that we get those SAT scores. I would just be curious to see whether we've looked at because it would seem to be well, that's the only place they're learning math is in math class.
I have a couple of thoughts. So nationally, I bet you would see that regardless of the curriculum, right? Like if this is a national,
The 30.
right?
No.
So secondly, so there's algebra, geometry, algebra 2. They take it. It's when they take it, and sometimes there's not a direct connection as to when they're required to take it and how much instruction. Right? Typically, the pathway is right. The pathway is typically algebra, geometry, algebra 2. They take it in April, so there's a whole. There's at least a couple of solid unit whatever, right, that are not on board yet. Some kids, not many, but some start out with a pre-algebra type of right? So they may be scoring really well there, but they have had less opportunity to have that content, right? So I mean, those are just other factors, is all I'm saying. It doesn't. I'm not saying it is because of that or not, but there's a lot to consider.
Yeah, no, totally. And I haven't
Yeah.
thought about this before, but
Yeah.
I was just trying to think about I was just trying to think about well, what are the things that we could actually have control over, and the things that
Right.
we can't have control over.
Right.
And one of the things we have control over is curriculum or
Yes.
instruction, or like that is that course of study. So I'm just sort of that was the thinking. But I know you all have.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, to what Cynthia is definitely trying to explain is I feel like the SAT has a lot of advanced math on it, that if you don't take the more advanced math courses, you're going to hit that SAT without the math knowledge that you need to score well. Where it's different, a little bit more subjective, I feel like, with the reading and writing. And so I think, and having a couple of kids gone through where one was actually incredibly strong with math, and and then the other was just more run of the mill, and just have I know sorry she's not watching, just in that area, just more standard, and to see the difference of the math scores on the SAT just because she just not even reaching that point, whereas the other one had gone beyond all of the knowledge on the SAT. So it's like she had the knowledge to do it, whereas when you don't take the advanced courses and you come to 11th grade, you don't have the knowledge in math that you need to do well or to score high.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I had a follow-up question related to the math, and then also a reading question. But thank you, Cynthia, for your last scorecard presentation. It was great. So when you mentioned I'm not sure what page this is on the presentation, but the math and the now 8th graders being concerned.
Yes.
And you were talking about the dip from 6th grade to then when they were
Yes.
in 7th grade. What does that look like when you said, could you just describe more about when you say we're following that and we're,
At the
reflecting
building
on it?
levels, the principals are,
Are, like-
following up, and they have their goals around that. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they would be able to, I guess, I was going to ask you, but I'm realizing now it's probably a better question for them than I'm thinking about their spreadsheets where they're tracking all the kids in interventions. And I'm just thinking kind of similar to Colin's question.
Yes.
Then are the kids who are in those grades who are not scoring as high on the tests, are there more kids getting interventions, or are there potentially more kids that aren't identified in those grades, et cetera? I was just curious if we ever look at that.
I can dig into that.
Okay, great.
See get a dipstick.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thank you. And the question I had on the reading is, I should probably know the answer to this, but since that the through year assessment is a newer assessment, I just found it interesting, like our reading on grade level scores, then compared to how many are meeting the benchmarks. And I was like, okay, so even though the 3rd and 4th graders aren't reading on grade level, they're still able to meet the benchmark on the test. That's
it's
really
not
interesting.
comparable.
It's not comparable, but I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting.
We have very rigid standards around what we require. So that
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
No, it's a fair question, but that's why I pointed out it's looking at so many different. I don't know if you remember that data sheet. It looks like there's like a fluency, there's the letter, there's this, all of those other pieces are kind of, and they might be just shy of meeting each one of those, but not, or and so those all are factored into. You remember that big spreadsheet she showed with all those colors? Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying they could be just shy of meeting the standard of reading on grade level, but they could still, because they're almost there, still be scoring well on their
Yes.
state assessment?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And is what we consider grade level ours, or is that a state standard?
So well,
Like, do we set that bar?
There's standards. We look at, okay, if they're, I don't want to get too into but if we look at, okay, these are the skills we want for this grade. So there's all these nuances, right? And we try to stay away from the actual letter grade. We used to really focus on that, but all these nuanced things, and this is where we expect students to be at this time. So we shade them all these red, so basically, we've taken what the state standards are and then broken it down. And, you know, we used to say we want kids at a level D. Some schools might have had a C in kindergarten, for example. I'm trying to go backward to the former way, right? So we've always had that. We know kids can do more, you know.
So what used to be, okay, I'm reading a C book, I'm good. You are on grade level. Now is there's 10 areas in there and you hit 9, but not number 10. So you are not at grade level now.
Yeah, you might be just, you know, on your way.
Yeah.
2-ish.
Okay.
2-ish.
Okay.
But you can see from the results they all do. They get there.
Other questions for Cynthia?
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Going.
All right. So we do not have board comments or committee reports, policy review, unfinished business, or new business. So we will move on to personnel. And we have 3 items in here. A is on our agenda. B and C were added in the adjustments. So we'll start with A. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a STEM teacher at the Moore Street School, Pownell Elementary School for the 24-25 school year? Kelly and Malik, thank you.
Okay, this evening I present to you Renee Bucknell. Renee has a BS in elementary education from the University of Maine, and she holds her certification in as a K-8 elementary teacher. Some relevant experience: she's been a science teacher at Marshwood Junior High School in South Berwick, and a science teacher at Lyman Moore Middle School in Portland. References describe Renee as positive, organized, dynamic, having high standards, child-centered, collaborative, responsive, having a grounding presence. She's curious, compassionate, a strong team member, and knowledgeable about science, and she builds a strong classroom community.
Questions, comments? Great. So we have a motion, we have a second. We'll move it to a vote. All those in favor? Great. None opposed? All right. So you want me to put the motion? All right. 14B, do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to convert a 0.5 physical education teacher, 0.4 response to intervention teacher, and 0.1 response to intervention educational technician position at the Pownell Elementary School to a 0.5 physical education teacher and a 0.5 response to intervention teacher? Kelly? Beth? Okay.
Okay, let me try to explain this one. We have a person that is lots of little pieces how we're funding this individual. So the 0.1 ed tech position is 3.75 hours is what a week is what it amounts to. And you might say, why are we thinking let's clean this up right now? We've seen the increased need for RTI for kids, and we need a little bit more flexibility in this person's schedule. This individual's already being paid benefits at the teacher rate by contract, so there's no change in money there. And this little 0.1 position, we would use the 0.1 ed tech we already have, and the only other difference is that through other savings is about $6,000 to make it a full-time teacher instead of really a 0.9 teacher and a little 0.1 ed tech, and it would help clean it up and give us more flexibility. So we're not asking for an additional monies. We're just asking to clean up this position and give us a little more flexibility in this person's schedule.
Questions?
Can you explain the 0.1 again? Like that currently has been
It's the same person because they're a 0.9 teacher, 3.75 hours in the entire week. That person's an ed tech. So what we're saying, let's just make that person a full-time teacher, give flexibility, particularly it won't necessarily change that PE schedule for that teacher, but give more RTI time for that teacher. We have a lot of pieces of put together for people, and I understand why we do it to sort of try to help people make whole. But we say let's make it efficient and give more flexibility.
Any other questions or comments on that one? So we have a motion and a second. We'll move that to a vote. All those in favor? Great, none opposed. All right, 14C. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire a special education teacher at Freeport High School for the remainder of the 24-25 school year? Funding to come from unfilled special education educational technician positions at the Freeport High School. Mara and Danielle, thank you.
So currently, Freeport High School has 4 special education educational technician positions that are open, and they've been open all year long. Despite our best efforts, we've been unable to fill them. So we want to think outside the box a little bit and see if we can get a teacher instead. So the intent is to use funding for 2 of those positions for the rest of the year and see if we can get a special ed teacher. Then what we'd like to do is look at it at the end of the school year. How did this work? And then we maybe come back to the money's already there. We're not asking for any new monies, but we may come and say, look, this is a model we want to try. It's supported by the Director of Instructional Support. Also, Jen's very supportive, as well as the department head here at the high school. So that's what we'd like to try.
Questions on that one?
What's the likelihood of finding someone at this point?
It's hard to say. You know, it could be that there could be someone who received a degree in December and is looking for a job for special education. Could be someone that moved to the area. It's hard to say, but we thought we've been unsuccessful in filling anyone. We thought we'd give it a try, and if not, maybe at the end of the year we say, you know what, let's post in the spring for that full-time position next year. Your pool is absolutely larger when you post later, but we're hopeful that maybe somebody or someone may just say, I'm ready to join the team.
All right. We'll move that to a vote. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. All right. We are back to public comment. I think we're all set there. And so we will, I will take a motion for consideration and approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA section 4056A for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation performance goals. Beth? Cheyenne, thank you. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. So it is 8:08. We will go into executive session.
We're moving across the hall. And Moon is moving home. You're done.